Hey guys, and welcome back over here to the Hedrick Outdoor YouTube channel. Today we are in the kitchen, but what we are doing is not cooking, we are processing down a deer. We are breaking a deer down, vacuum sealing it, and getting it ready for the freezer. So I'm going to show you guys my setup, and then I'll show you kind of my process of doing it. It's not a hard thing to do, it's a very easy thing to do, so don't be intimidated by trying it for yourself. It's cheaper than getting one processed once you already own all of the stuff. So I started out buying a little every year, like my dehydrator, my grinder, my vacuum sealer, like just a little throughout the year, so that by the time deer season gets around, I have everything I need. And every couple years, I'll pick up something new, like a sausage stuffer or a meat tenderizer or meat slicer. And it helps you build all that stuff up. So don't try to buy it all at once unless you can afford to buy it all at once. That's up to you. I will have everything you see pretty much linked in the description. And I do this with one knife. It's a super simple process until you get into making other things like summer sausage, jerky, burger, bologna, Spam, and all it kind of depends on what you're making. I will have another video of me making summer sausage bologna. It's just a whole grind day of where I just grind meat. That's a separate process. I do that on a separate day. This is all getting it broke down to be frozen, and then all my grinder meat goes separate. So here, I like to get all the same cuts. So I have the 2 back straps and the 2 front shoulders. A lot of people either grind their front shoulders or keep them whole and you can cook them as a roast. I will be grinding these because I already have a couple of whole ones in the freezer to keep as roast. So these will go to be ground, so I'll break them down to put them in the grinder. Of course, this is the lovely back strap. This is the nectar of the gods. This will be sliced into portion-sized pieces for me and my wife, and will be vacuum sealed. This will get vacuum sealed with all the grinder meat that I have. Here we have our bowl for our scraps. Here we have our bowl for our grinder meat. It is clearly the bigger bowl because there's normally not that much scrap. We have this humongous cutting board. I absolutely love having a huge cutting board because you keep it on the cutting board. It doesn't get all over your counter. And sometimes it seems like you just can't find a big enough one. And Lord, I hope I finally did find a big enough one. The only knife we will be using is the Rapala fillet knife. This is my favorite fillet knife in the world. They're cheap and they work so well. Then we have our simple food saver vacuum sealer. Raring to go. This is the one that you cut the bags, you open it, you seal it. So actually, I like this one a lot better than the one that holds the roll because I can open this one, position the bag exactly where I want, and I waste a lot less space in bags. Which leads me to our bag cutting station. We got a pair of scissors, our bags, and a Sharpie to write on them, mark the dates, everything like that. So I'm going to get you guys set up so you can kind of see my hands and stuff. You probably won't be able to see my face, but you'll be able to see my hands and stuff. And what I'm doing to cut these down and break these down, what I'm removing. It's going to kind of be more narrated than anything. I'll kind of talk you through it as best I can now. I soak my deer in ice, in a cooler in ice water. People say do it. Some people do it, some people don't. It's personal preference. I've always done it that way. I will continue to do it that way because dry packing it for a couple of days, I just don't have that option. So if I did, I would give it a shot. I just don't really have a way to keep it dry from it sinking down into the ice and being soaked in ice water anyway. I mean, I'll try to figure it out. I think I'll give it a shot on the next deer we shoot. I will do my best to figure out a way to keep it out of the ice water, and we'll do a taste comparison. I highly doubt there's a difference. There is a look difference, but I don't think there's a taste difference. So like I said, I'm going to get this all set up, get you guys where you can see, and we'll start processing this deer. We are going to start with the simplest piece, which is the back strap. Now, I do not clean mine up as much as some people do because I like to leave the silver skin on when I freeze it. Some people don't do that. Some people do. We've always done it. I think it helps to, you know, it's a little extra protection from freezer burn in my opinion. Scrap that. You have this other piece. It's kind of hard to see sometimes. That runs right here, that's connected to the back strap. This is actually 2 separate pieces. This piece here is super tender as well, but most of the time it ends up in my grinder. So you're just going to take it and attempt to follow that line the best you can, you know, ain't everybody perfect. Trim that up, see, boom. Right there, good grinder meat, or whatever you want to do with it. Clean all the slimy stuff off you can. That is a personal preference. That's good grinder meat. Get the fat off there. Deer fat don't taste very good from what I hear. Never actually eaten it. Because my dad's always removed it and I've always removed it. Have heard of people rendering it down to make tallow though. Or is it tallow? Or I don't know. Anyway, lard, I think. Piece of fat there. We're just going to remove that. Now, get down here, remove that nasty sliminess. And we're going to remove that right there. So that's pretty much all I'm going to do to this. That's it. I'm going to go, okay, try to remove as much slime as you can. I don't know if I mentioned that. So you can just kind of take your knife and slide it through there. And that's pretty much what I'm going to do. So I'm going to say, me and my wife, you know, we're cutting it up to fry it or something like that, or make poppers or wrap it. That's about as big as a chunk as we need. So I can make almost 3 of those out of this half piece, because we did the day I shot this, cook a piece of it. So you got your 3 pieces of back strap there. This will go back into my pan or my tub until I'm ready to vacuum seal it. Because like I said, I like to break down each piece and then vacuum seal each piece all together at the same time. So again, you've got this piece that just runs along there. It's very easy to remove. I've seen people fry this and they say it's really good. I just grind it. So that's going to go in the grinder pile. Take and remove as much of this first membrane, this membrane right here, as you can. I don't leave this one on. I just leave the silver skin on for that extra protection. Now this is a whole. This one's a whole back strap. This one hasn't been touched. You may get a little of the silver skin off with it, but that's okay. And I like to find a spot to pick it up, just run my knife with it to help get that slime off as best I can. Now, it's up to you how you want to do this part. I leave all this on because I'll clean it up before I cook it. It helps me get it in the cooler faster to just go ahead and do it quickly. Remove a lot of the nasty stuff that I don't want to freeze on there. But then save the, square that end off. But then save the rest of the cleaning up on it. So the rest of removing the silver skin and stuff before I cook it, because it doesn't bother me to have to do that. I didn't quite get that all off that line. And then we're just going to do the same thing. We're going to cut that long, cut that long, and yeah, it's good enough. So then these will get frozen just the way they are. And when it's time to eat, I'll go back through and I'll take my fillet knife and I'll fillet off the silver skin. Make sure that all the slime's gone. I see a little piece there, a little bit of fat here. but I will finish cleaning them up right before I cook it. Now, if you have somebody in your household, or if you're giving it to somebody else or something like that, you can go ahead and prep it and knock it all the way down so that they can just cook it by simply removing this piece of silver skin and this little bit of silver skin here, and it'll be good to go. You can remove that little piece there with your fingers. Simple. I mean, it's really simple. Or, you know, like I said, if the people in your house know what they're doing, leave the silver skin on it, freeze it. Like I said, I think it adds more protection. Everybody in my house knows what they're doing, and I do most of the cooking when it comes to the deer meat anyway. So, but you can just fillet that off and it'll be good to go, because as you can hear, it's kind of hard, but like I said, I like that as a piece of protection, extra protection in the freezer. That's going to go back into our bucket. I feel like I always make a mess doing this. No matter how hard I try not to make a mess, I always make a mess. So now I'm going to move over here to the bag cutting section. We've got 6 pieces of tenderloin. And those are going to be 2 marks. So we're going to go 2 marks. Please don't judge my line cutting abilities, because I can't cut a straight line to save my life. And 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. All right, got my 6 bags all made up. Or well, they're all cut. And you got to come over here to the vacuum sealer. Try to get you guys in there. You're gonna take your bag, open up the sealer, put your bag in there. Doesn't really matter which side goes in first. Keep your fingers there. All the way up to operate. I'm gonna hit seal. This is just gonna seal it. This isn't gonna vacuum seal this bag yet. It's got our bag nice and sealed all the way across the bottom. Gonna stick our piece of loin in there, open this back up. That's what I like about this one, is because on the other one, if I'd have tried to cut this bag this small, this would never work. But on this one, it works like a charm. It is now sealing. And there you go. Nice vacuum sealed piece of tenderloin. All right, guys. Now, as far as breaking down a front shoulder to grind it, I'm going to show you on one And then I'm just going to do the other, because there's no sense in me showing you both, and this is going to take a while. It's simple. You remove all the gunk, because you're going to grind this. So you discard all the gunk. Which, shoulders are always gunky. They're always super slimy, because they're held on by connective tissue. And there's no ball and socket or anything. So, which if you cut this off the deer, you know that. And then you're simply going to remove the meat. Now, a lot of times you kind of do a process of both. You'll remove some slime, and then you'll remove some meat, and then you'll remove some slime, and you'll remove some meat. Kind of gross. Like, trying to figure out how I'm going to do this. So, on this side, I don't know if you guys can see that. There's that layer like skin. Not skin, but it's a membrane. It's a thicker membrane than the slime. Even though it has some slime in it too. But it's this white membrane. Different than silver skin. That you want to try to get under and get removed. It'll also help you remove the slime off of it. As you go. And breaking down a front shoulder to grind it, I mean, it takes a minute. But you get under there. If you do it as a roast, it doesn't take as long, because at that point all you're doing is cleaning all this off and throwing it in the grinder pile anyway. So, a lot of times this is all kind of connected together. So this piece is connected to that front piece I'm removing, which we want to remove. I would remove this to make it a roast. This would end up in the grinder. So obviously to grind it, I'm going to remove it as well. It can be a bit of a pain because it's slimy. You can kind of break it down into chunks. Like I said, my dad and us will keep a couple of them whole and call them blade roasts, and you cook this whole thing with some potatoes and carrots, and it's fantastic as a roast. Take and cut out this fat spot. See how I pulled that piece out. Nobody wants to eat that, even if you run it through the grinder. Get a big wad of slime. And that's what you'll see me mostly remove when I'm doing grinder meat. If it's slimy and gross, don't nobody want to eat that. And people say it'll come out in the grinder. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. I don't try to find out. So, all right, that's good enough to go in the grinder pile. This here, and a lot of times it's not always about cutting. Sometimes you got to cut, sometimes you can just pull. Remove all that yumminess. There's a lot of people who wouldn't fool with even saving this piece. That's about right there. There's no sense in saving it because there's actually no meat on that. That's a good piece for the grinder. Remove the slimeage. And we're going to put that piece in the grinder. Rotate this over. There really are sections to a deer, like to an entire. No matter how you look at it, there will always be sections. Now you can either, just like on the back strap, tenderloin, whatever you want to call it, go ahead and remove all the silver skin if you want, or you can do that the day you go to grind it. I do a rough clean to get it in the freezer, and then I will finish cleaning it the day I go to grind it, because I'm going to cut it into smaller pieces anyway. I know it's kind of like double working yourself. Why not do it while you're there? I don't know. I feel like to make a day out of all of it anyway. I don't know. Again, it's just a process of removing the slime. And I never found a good way to get rid of the slime in a hurry. It's just a constant battle with it, especially on front shoulders. Front shoulder is the slimiest part of it here. Big chunk of skin and fat right there. You're gonna throw it in the grinder. Damn it. I cut through it. I can't hold on to it now. There we go. Grinder. Trash. Trash, fat trash, and grinder. Grinder. So then you're just going to go through the process of deboning it. So there's a lot of really pretty meat on a shoulder. That's why I try not to ever put my bullet through the shoulder. Look at that. It's just gorgeous meat. It grinds really good. I'm actually going to cut that a little smaller. Or you can make roasts out of it. Like I said, if I didn't already have a couple in the freezer, this would definitely be a roast. But I need to make burger and summer sausage and just a bunch of other stuff. So this year I decided I was going to grind more. And so to grind more, you got to have more grinder meat, you know. There's a section right here that I always remove on every deer. It's a fatty section behind the shoulder. Right there. It's just nasty and gross. Put that in your scrap pile. And you're going to just continue to debone this. Follow the bone with your knife. Yeah, as best you can. It takes time to learn how to do this, you know. And everybody's got their preference, you know. Maybe people out there that, well, I ain't got time to do that. In my opinion, if you have the time to hunt it and shoot it, you got the time to process it. You can take a day off hunting, or you know, if you kill one on Saturday, ain't no sense in going hunting on Sunday, sit there and process it and put that deer up. Don't get me wrong, I understand that people have limited time to hunt. I do. But it's just a skill that people should have. My dad taught me how to do it. I'll teach my kids if I ever have any. Look, man, that's a good piece of meat. Almost looks like backstrap. So yeah, you just sit here and whittle at it till all the meat's off. Every piece you can get off. Throw it in your grinder pile. Just make sure it's not nasty. I'm gonna sit here and keep whittling at this till I get it all gone. But that's it. You just sit there and you keep cutting at it. You'll get it all off. And I'm gonna do the other one, and we'll move on to hindquarters next. I'll show you how I break down a hindquarter and how I break down each piece of meat out of the hindquarter. So, like I said, give it a shot, you know, if you're willing and able. I don't think time is an excuse, but I always make the time. My dad's always made the time. It's not like we don't have to work. It's just we prioritize. You know, I took this animal's life, so I'm going to prioritize breaking it down and everything. Guess it just depends on where your priorities lie. So, like I said, I'm going to keep whittling at this till I get all the meat off of it, and then we'll move on to doing the hindquarter. Alright guys, now we're on our last piece of meat here that I'm going to show you how to break down, because everything else I have is either the inner loins or grinder meat, and it's just cleaning it up like you would any of this stuff. Same process. We're going to start removing slime and gunk, just like on everything else. Now here I have, this is the, you can actually make ossobuco out of this, but this is all the shanks. I cut them off and leave them attached to the hindquarter if I can, just because then all I have to do is this right here, and I've got them separated, and we're going to clean off all this gunk. Put that in our scrap bowl. That's gunky and slimy. And then, piece for the grinder, piece for the grinder. You take, there's that little tendon right there, cut just a little high of it, and you'll remove the tendon and a bunch of just, can't even grind that really, it always bogs down the grinder. Grinder meat. Now, when it comes to the hindquarter, all of this is laid out in perfect sections as far as deboning it goes. You follow the lines and it comes apart. So, I know sometimes the stuff I'm doing looks really random, but for the most part, I've just been doing it so long that I have the way I want to do it in my head. So I start going around just cleaning up random, what looks to be in a random series, but in my mind it all makes sense. There's a place I actually like to start is right there. I'll start because there's this piece right here. The reason I start on this side, but you'll see me randomly grab little sections because I can see them and get to them right then. All that fat, somebody wants to eat that. Then there's also glands in your hindquarter, depending on how you took it off. See, right there's a nasty gland. You got to make sure you get all your glands out. So right here, you remove some of this, is going to be that start. Because you can kind of unfold a hindquarter once you learn where to start with it. So right about there. And I may have missed it a little bit. Maybe a little. That right there, once it's cleaned up, goes in the grinder. It's good to go. You get back in here, you fill it around with your fingers. Fill it around with your finger. Now you have to flip it. I think I messed myself up, guys. Oh, crap. Normally this whole piece comes off as one. What did I do wrong? See, even I get messed up every now and again. It's okay. We haven't messed up to the point of no return. You just got to keep following the lines. I just got a little confused where my line was. And if you take and remove all of this, it can help you find those lines. Big chunk of fat, man. This deer has some fat on him. Unusual for Mississippi deer to have that much fat. So what you're looking for, there's a lot of flipping it around and feeling around and all of that. Like this piece here, you can go ahead and follow it around. Right there, I think. Every now and again my cut's just a little off, because these pieces separate out very well normally. But I take my time with it. I'm never in a hurry. I don't want to miss a gland or just a bad spot of fat. As I start to break it down, like I said, my brain will go all over the place. There's a piece, I mean, just perfectly right here. All of that line. You'll hear that connective tissue. So there's another gland. Right here that I cut. Generally try to get it out without cutting it. So you've got that glands, what they look like if you cut them. You got to get that out. The rest of it's right there. Right there. So Of course, I'm just trying to lay this all open a little at a time. Like I said, the easiest thing you can do is follow the lines. So, line there. As long as you follow them, this will all come apart. Keep hitting that clear connective tissue, and there's some fat and some skin right there. There's your first piece. That's what I like to make jerky out of. Got this piece here. I also make jerky out of sometimes, or you can just fry this piece. Nice piece there. Where's my line? There. Two. Sorry guys. Sometimes like I said, I'm not a professional. Sometimes I mess up myself. And it's my own fault because I'll get to looking at it and not quite be paying attention as well as I should be. This is just a big chunk right here. That goes in the grinder. This is also where your steaks would come from. It's actually not this piece, because this is the football roast. You can cut steaks out of that if you want. I'm gonna make jerky out of it. This piece right here is as good as tenderloin, or backstrap. It's very, very, very tender once you clean it all up. But I'm gonna make jerky out of it because my wife really loves jerky. This piece here is for the grinder. Again, we're just following the lines, if you can see them at the time. It's more like that piece that you would make ossobuco out of. It's the part that has a lot of tendon in it. So then you get up to everybody's two. Or well, I don't know if everybody's two favorite pieces is the right word. Start removing that off the bone. Flip her over. I realize you might have missed it. Oh, I got it. It's right there. So depending on how big your deer is, this piece right here gets cut into steaks a lot. Or you can cook it as a roast. And you have what we call the football roast because it's slightly football shaped. And you got a couple options with it. You can do it bone in or bone out. To make it a roast. Or you can cut it all up into, you can cut everything out of the hind quarter except for the tendony part. You can cut all of this, all these chunks up into stew meat if you would like. I like stew meat some. I did that on a recent deer. I'm not going to do it with this hind quarter, but I will be doing it with probably the other one out of this deer. So that is your, people like to cut steaks out of this piece. People also make jerky out of this piece. So it's all personal preference. This piece here, this is a roast. I know people who grind them. You got to come there. Then you're just going to debone. Over here, right around there. Right around the hip joint. And you just start peeling it off the bone. Get cut through right there. You can save your bone for stock or whatever you want to do with it. So, out of that hind quarter, here's what you got. You have got your steak piece, or like I said, I've seen people cut jerky out of it. You've got your roast, your football roast here. You've got this nice, beautiful piece that people cut and fry and cut and make jerky out of, which is what I'm going to do with it. Got this piece that is as good as tenderloin. It's beautiful. You see how just simple it is and clean it is once you clean all the skin off of it. You can use it to make jerky. It's actually, you can split it there again and take this little section right here off. I'll go ahead and do that. So, dang, skin's fighting me. So that piece really cooks up as good as tenderloin or backstrap, or you can make jerky out of it. That's just a piece of grinder, or yeah, cut it up for stew. That is all tendon. That's all. It's got a lot of tendon and stuff in it. I'm cleaning it and use it for grinder, 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 and grinder. You can cut this into stew, or you can cut it into jerky, or you can use, like this piece is a roast, you can use this as a roast, or you can cut this into steaks. It all really depends on your personal preference. I know people who take the whole quarter with the bone in it and run it through a saw and cut it up into steaks. I'm going to use, this one as a roast, so these two will end up being roast. I've seen people make this into jerky. It's just, there's a lot you can do with it. It all comes down to personal preference. Generally, when I'm cleaning a deer, while I'm cleaning it, I fry this piece. But I really want to make a lot of jerky. I bought just a bunch of jerky seasoning. So I will probably take these 3 pieces here, make jerky out of it, keep this piece as a roast, and use the rest for grinder. And then in the next one, when I do it, I will cut it into stew meat. You just cut all this into chunks. Except for these 2 pieces, I will probably still use, these 3 pieces I'll probably still use as jerky, and then I'll cut the rest of it into chunks for stew to make some more stew meat. And I might use this piece for stew. It all kind of depends on how I'm feeling once I get that other one done. Because we do like to eat a lot of deer stew, and I really like deer stew. So that's how you break down a hind quarter. You just follow the lines. There's all these beautiful lines in it. I'll put all this in this pan. Except for that, it's a grinder. Grinder. That needs to be cleaned up before it goes in the grinder pile. So I'm going to stick it over here. Okay. Like I said, you pull this joker out. Depending on how you took it off, that is all normally connected to the leg. That's a piece of grinder that I just froze to it. This is all the lower part of the leg. And you take it and clean all this crap off, and you can see all the lines. You follow all those lines and you can break all your pieces down. It's that simple on a hindquarter. And then you have all your sections. You have your rump roast, you know, some grinder, this nice piece for either roast or jerky. And then you have your steak section, which is down under here, or maybe vice versa. That might be the jerky section, and that might be the steak section. Anyway, said you follow all those lines, and this whole thing just breaks down, just like I just did. This would, depending on how you cleaned your deer, this may or may not be on there. Mine is always on there because I grind that. I said, you cut them lines, you'll be good to go every time. Well, guys, that's going to do us for this video. That was me breaking down how I break down my deer. That was a mouthful. Showing you guys kind of how I do it. It's a little weird recording yourself doing it if you've never done it before, so I will probably repeat this process and do it each piece as its own video. But I'm going to get to finishing this up, get it put in the freezer, get it all vacuum sealed, and put away. I want to thank you guys for watching. Y'all remember to like and subscribe. God bless each and every one of y'all. Y'all stay frosty, and I'll see you next time.